and welcome back to Sip and Spin. My name is Skylar, and over here in a cute little pant romper, or capri romper, that's yellow and floral, is Brittany.
Hello! This is a variety podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and nothing.
Woo!
Yes, welcome.
Welcome back. Thanks for being here.
We'll go ahead and say this episode might be chaotic. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'll go ahead and apologize.
Brittany's had a hot mess of a day. I've had a hot mess of a day.
Why was your day a hot mess?
I had like an anxiety attack at work, like
Oh,
a
no.
nervous breakdown because I felt so bad about something that wasn't my fault, nor was it the other person's fault. Like it was just one of those things that happens, but I convinced myself that I was a shit person.
Oh my god.
And then so I
That
cried
tracks.
a little bit, but it's fine. Yeah.
Gosh, well,
Basically this guy came in and he was wanting to return the dress he bought yesterday and get a size 8, but he needed to order it, and I noticed he paid cash yesterday, and we can't do an online order with a cash payment. We have to do a card payment. So we were trying to get it figured out to where he could order the 8 with a card, because the card he had didn't have money on it, and like how we were going to do it. And I was like, I think we can put it on a gift card and just use the gift card, but I don't know. Let me call my manager. I called my manager, paged her. She didn't call me so I could ask her about it. And this whole time, like, we're going back and forth, and like, we're not able to communicate very well because he speaks very little English and I speak very little Spanish, and we were like trying to use translator apps, and like both of us had our own translator apps out just trying to and it was a whole thing. And then this guy came over and he was like, do you guys need a translator? And so he translated for us. And I just like, it was, and we got it figured out, and he ended up taking my customer to customer service to get the cash refund for the return. So then, and explained to him that he needed to, since it wasn't a credit card for the store, we couldn't make a payment in store on that card. He would have to go to his bank to deposit the money onto the card to be able to use that card. So the nice guy that was translating for us had to explain all of that to him. And I felt so bad, and I was like having a nervous breakdown because I like wasn't able to communicate well because I don't speak any Spanish at all. Well, I speak a little bit of Spanish, but not enough that I could have explained all of that in Spanish. And I felt so bad because I was like, all of this time I spend learning languages is so I can communicate with people. Not your fault. And so I can communicate with people. It's like I would have had a better conversation in Welsh than I would have in Spanish. And it's like I spent so much time like on these other languages that like Latin and Welsh and Irish that no one, Greek that hardly anyone speaks anymore just because it's fun. Meanwhile, my Spanish skills that I actually need to have and could actually use are not good at all. But then, so he explained it to him, so he went to go to the bank or whatever, and I was like, dealing with other customers, like, well, it was like done and over with, and I still felt so shitty about it, and I took a break because I was like, I just need to, and like an hour and a half later, I see the guy who was translating for us about to walk out and leave, so I went to go up to him to like say thank you and apologize for not being able to speak Spanish, and, but then it like happened perfect timing because the customer who I was gonna need to order the thing for also came back at that same time. So the customer asked the other guy to like, hey, like, can you keep translating so we can get this ordered? So while we were walking over to the register to do the order, I was like thanking him, and I was like, sorry, like, my Spanish isn't very good. Like, I haven't spent a lot of time practicing it. And he was like, honestly, like, you've done more than what most people would have. Like, most people would have just been like, I'm not dealing with that, and like let it go, but you were at least trying. And I was like, thank you, but like also I feel really bad because I do all these other languages, and he was like, but not Spanish. I was like, not Spanish. And he was like, it's okay. He was like, I've got it. He's like, I've got it, we're gonna get it figured out. And but I don't know, I just made myself feel really bad for not so I guess I'm gonna start picking up Spanish so I can get better at Spanish.
Don't have to if you don't want to. You do languages for fun.
Yeah, but I don't know. It just made me like, I was like, oh, it was a rough time. But like I said, it wasn't my fault, and it wasn't his fault. And because like, these things happen. It's normal. There's going to be language barriers sometimes, and you just find ways to get through it. And we were trying to find a way to get through it, and it just happened to not work until the other guy came along. And I'm like, had to tell myself like, it's okay. But also I felt really bad.
Oh gosh. Well, hopefully that's the worst thing that happened today.
Yeah, so that's why my day was chaotic. Like I said, it all went okay and everything got taken care of. So
good. So just let it go.
Big shout out to the guy who was translating for us. Thanks, man.
He's a real one. Well, I guess what's going on today?
So today we are having a decision-filled episode that we had to make all of our own decisions.
Which we are notoriously bad at.
And I think it went about as bad as we expected, having to make our own decisions. So our topic was random, and then we got a drink we like, which I think was a better decision that we were able to make.
Yeah, in a pinch, you can always, pick a drink you like.
Yes.
So what you drinking?
I am drinking a blackberry Moscow-mule. I'm
Delicious.
pretty sure I've had it on the podcast before. But yeah, and then it's got fresh muddled blackberries in it. What are you drinking?
I am drinking a gin jam combination. Never had it before. Just made it up.
All right.
So it's frog jam, gin, and bitters, and tonic water.
Mm.
Which frog jam is fig, raspberry, and then orange. I don't remember what the G is.
Grapefruit, grape.
No, it might just be part of orange. I can't remember. It's something ginger. Ginger, I think. It's ginger. So yeah, see how it is.
Yeah.
It might be disgusting, but I'll still drink it.
Cheers. Oh yeah, I put a lot of vodka in there.
That tracks.
Yep, I did not do any measurements, but it's good.
It's different. It's not bad though. You won't like it because it's still very ginny.
That's not bad.
Oh really?
Mm, I
Nice.
like that.
I am surprised. I didn't really taste the vodka in yours. I guess that's the point of vodka. It didn't taste like too much though.
Yeah, like it doesn't, like there's definitely a lot of vodka in there.
I definitely
but
taste the ginger beer.
it's not like overpowering.
Yeah. Yes, that's a
Good thing about vodka. You can use a lot of it and it's still okay.
Well, okay.
It still tastes okay.
There you go. We don't know about the consequences of being okay, but the taste.
Yeah, well, that time we had a whole lot of lemon drops with a whole lot of vodka. We were fucked up by the end of that recording.
Yeah. Shout out to season 1.
Shout out to season 1, creator/creatives, and then we had to redo the whole episode again.
We recorded that one twice. Do you guys know? Well, you probably did. We probably did too.
I think we said something because we had to, because we weren't gonna be able to have the same reactions and jokes we had.
Yeah.
So we were like, hey, by the way,
Yeah.
we can blame it on the vodka.
I do blame it on the vodka, so blame it on you and the vodka. Alright, anything else?
I don't think so.
Nothing pressing?
Nope.
Alright, so in the spirit of random, my topic today is very fucking random. It's a topic that I personally am not even that into, but here we are. Some people have their things, and this is definitely a lot of people's thing.
Mm-hmm.
This was never my thing. I never cared. So why I'm talking about it? Don't know. Random. Chaotic day, like I said. So I'm talking about mermaids.
Woo!
Which, I was never a mermaid girl. Little Mermaid was never my favorite Disney movie.
Yeah. I mean, mermaids are interesting, but, I was never, cared that much. I was like, alright, mermaid.
Yeah. So yeah, I think they're very fascinating and very interesting, and whether or not you follow, if you believe mermaids exist or not, whatever, that's not really what this is about. This is just basically lore. And so I'll do a generalized, the term mermaid is very broad, but then there's also, some specific types. That's what I really want to talk about, because that's where it gets more interesting when you get into, the sinister nature of certain types of mermaids.
Mm-hmm.
So, just generic to begin with, what is a mermaid exactly? It's a fabled marine creature with the head and upper body of a human being and the tail of a fish. I think we all know that, but just a refresher if you need. Similar divine or semi-divine beings appear also in very ancient mythologies. So, for example, it starts.
We're not even 15 minutes
I
in.
know, and she's already about to be chaotic. So, for example, the Chaldean sea god Ea, or Owens, would be something that was a pre-mermaid or pre-started the lore of mermaids. So it goes back even to the ancient mythologies.
See, I figured it would have been like very Poseidon-esque that time. Because I know a lot of Poseidon images are him as like King Trident or whatever.
Yeah, I don't really talk about any about that, so I'm not really sure where that came from. I'm going to touch some on Greek in my first category, in my first subcategory. But even that, it's a lot of Poseidon is never actually brought up in that mythos.
Interesting.
So, I'm sure, like, some people that definitely believe, like, all of the sea kind of just resides under Poseidon, so you could make the argument then that everything in the sea is connected to Poseidon. But I'm talking about the Greek form of this. For them, it's not necessarily sea heavy. It's weird.
Okay.
We'll see. And then this is something that people might not know where the differentiation comes from, and so that's just kind of what I'm here to talk about. Back to just general mermaids. In European folklore, mermaids and mermen were natural beings who had magical and prophetic powers, similar to like fairies and what we think of that, and just the general term fae, which mermaids can be a fae creature also. In all versions of mermaids, the one like defining factor about them is they love to sing and they love music. Like that's just true in all of my subcategories today, and I would be willing to bet of all the other ones also that I'm not talking about.
I mean, even think to the Little Mermaid, like...
Yeah, there's just always music involved, which again, that's a lot of fae creatures. Music is very prominent. They lived for a very long time, but they were mortal, and they were said to have no souls.
Okay.
So mermaids are supposed to be soulless beings, and while they do live for a very long time, people were like, oh, they're immortal, but no, they are mortal, so they do die eventually.
So it's like elves.
Yeah, kind of. Depending on what fiction of elves, because some elves were immortal in some places, and theories. But yeah, it's like all the fae all have those ties to each other, so there's a lot of overlap and all that. Wait, this is not English. Chaotic. Hold on. There are a lot of tales that talk about marriages between mermaids and men. So in most of these tellings, the man steals something from the mermaid, and while the object is hidden within the male's possession, she lives with him because she's forced to. And if she finds it, then she gets to return to sea at once. So in other words, men kidnap them and hide something precious to them to keep them hostage. Yay, men.
I hate that.
This section's gonna be a little men-hatey, but it's because most versions of people being anger is towards men specifically and not towards women. Which fair, because they kidnapped them and held them hostage against their will.
I would be mad too.
So I'd try to drown some sailors too, you know?
It's what they deserve. Instead
of this, though, sometimes the tales would talk of a marriage lasting while certain agreed upon conditions are fulfilled by both parties, like it's like a contract almost. And then it also ends when the conditions are broken, so just like instant back to the sea type of thing. While some merfolk can be kind, they are most often dangerous. And that is kind of what we're going to get a little bit more into with the 3 different types that I'm going to talk about. So yeah, I'm going to talk about 3 different types of mermaids. So sirens, which are probably a term that a lot of people do know of. And then the nokken. And then, now this, I've seen it pronounced both Iara and Iara, which is a Brazilian mermaid.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about those 3. So
let's get it.
First up, sirens.
Love me a good siren.
This goes back to like a siren song and all of that, and this is very heavily where like the singing comes up most, but again, like I said, every subcategory of the term mermaid music is always involved, but sirens just kind of got the rap for it. So here we go.
They're hot.
I mean, traditionally all mermaids are.
Yeah, like, sirens are hot. I am a pro-siren person. All about it.
Well, then this part is for you. And this is actually where I'm going to talk about the Greek mythology.
Drown more sailors, please. Siren. There's a siren out there listening.
Could you please? If you're not too busy singing right now and you're listening to us, I don't know why you would listen to our voices. But could you please? In Greek mythology especially, sirens are said to be creatures that are half bird and half woman. So, if that sounds familiar, they are a very big part in Homer's The Odyssey. So that is where they come in. That's where traditionally a lot back then, especially in the Greek mythology, the siren term does go to a half bird creature instead of a half fish creature. But that's okay, because it still counts. Ovid, who wrote Metamorphoses, said that the sirens were human companions of Persephone. So it's another really famous telling that has sirens come up in it. So if you're familiar with either of those, the Odyssey or the Persephone and Hades lore, you probably have heard of them, of the winged variety. In case you weren't sure, you're like, where the hell did they come in the Hades or the Persephone lore? So there's two versions. So some say that after Persephone was kidnapped by Hades, her human companions that she was with looked everywhere for her, and then they finally prayed for wings to fly across the sea. The gods granted their power, and then thus they were then sirens, half woman, half bird. In other ones, it says that Demeter turned them into birds to punish them for not guarding Persephone. I think either one works fine. The point is that the people that she was with ended up sirens. Mm-hmm. In art from this time also, sirens appeared first as birds with the head of women and later as women who were sometimes winged with the legs of birds. So it was also, they weren't really sure which half was supposed to be which, but it was depicted as both. Mm-hmm. But I think they finally landed on human heads, possibly wings, and then bird legs. And then either, like I said, either of them works. Often the winged version is associated, though, or confused with harpies, which these are not harpies. And that's where I think maybe people didn't realize that these were sirens, technically, and thought, oh, these are harpies. No, they're very different, and I'm not talking about harpies right now, but just keep that in mind. Different than harpies, but often confused. Being that either works for the leg of the head with the term siren, this is why it works for the aquatic version of this creature also, which is the classic mermaid look, human upper, tail of a fish. The term is interchangeable between the two different types because the siren term isn't for their looks or appearance, it is for simply the ability. Mm-hmm. And both possess it, so that's why they both fall into the siren genre. So, in both the aquatic and the winged version, they lure people to death with music. That is what a siren does. And I got some of my stuff today from, I don't know if you follow Piper CJ on TikTok.
I sure do.
Okay, so she talked about this in a video. And if you don't know her, you should definitely go follow her if you like shit like this, because she has a master's in folklore and she's awesome. And one of those that I watched today for this topic, just to kind of brush up on some stuff and fill in some blanks with my notes on Google, she was talking about this and she made a great point that since the term siren refers to the ability and not the appearance, she likes to argue that the Pied Piper, who lured all those kids to their deaths because the village didn't pay him, could be considered a siren. And I think that's a great point because it is just the ability. It has nothing really to do with the appearance. Mm-hmm. It's strictly ability, and that's what he is known for, is luring kids to their deaths. So I just thought that was a fun little thing she threw in.
I wonder almost then if, we go back to the original Peter Pan, where apparently the kids were, if he could also be considered a siren, with his...
I would say so, because
or is it more voice? Because he played the pan flute. Mm-hmm.
Well, the Pied Piper also is known to play an instrument. So it's just music in general. So mermaids and sirens, or just mermaids is a term, they love music and they love singing, but they also love instrumental stuff. And my next category actually is a specific with a violin.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think, because a lot of people also think that Pied Piper and Pan are connected for, the same storyline and stuff, so I definitely think Peter Pan could be considered a siren then also, because he lured children, especially in the old tales, with music. Mm-hmm. So, I agree with that. And there's also those, I don't know, I've seen really creepy videos, and there's, every now and then I end up on, creepy TikTok, and it's people who, live out in the middle of nowhere, and they don't have any neighbors, and then they'll just hear, an ice cream truck coming from the woods, and they're absolutely not, am I doing that? And I'm absolutely not, that is a fucking siren trying to get you. So yeah, don't follow weird music, because that's how you'll die.
That's how they get you.
That's how sirens get you, literally. So if you hear creepy music, or just something that doesn't seem in the right place, don't do it. Don't follow ice cream trucks in the woods.
Don't follow anything in the woods. If you're in the woods, don't go in the woods.
Why are you in the woods? Get out of there. Jesus. let's go to, like, protection. Can you be protected from sirens? Back to Greek mythology. Sailors used wax to plug their ears for most cases, so that if you can't hear the song, you won't be tempted to go to them to either crash your ship, which is what the winged ones were really known for, and then, of course, the fish ones, it's to lure you into the sea, and then they drown you and eat your bodies, like they should. But so yeah, if you can't hear it, so they just be plugging their ears with wax. Great. And another myth, it says that they just played a song even more beautiful, so that then counteracted the siren song, which... And I heard...
That's a bold claim.
Well, I heard this, Piper also talked about this on TikTok, and as she was telling it, I was, like, squinting my eyes, and I was like, I don't know about this one. And then she immediately was like, it seems like a stretch to her, too. And I was like, okay, good. Like, I don't really believe that one, because how are you going to outmatch a siren? Like,
yeah,
you're not.
I played a song better than them. It's like, that's a bold claim.
So, use that approach at your own risk, I guess, if that's all you got to go with.
Cue The Devil Went Down to Georgia. Or having the fiddle battle.
Maybe the only thing that could work. So according to siren lore, I kind of mentioned it earlier, so their songs typically, or at least in most of the stories, do not affect women. Women are thought to be pretty, like, immune to the siren song, at least with sirens specifically. And truly not even siren lore, just most fae lore, because they kind of fit into the broader scope. Most fae also aren't malicious towards women in general either, so it's another, like, connecting factor with a lot of different factions. Of course, in each broad term, like, there's very specific fairies, there's very specific mermaids, and some, yes, will go for women. Like, so don't be like, I'm safe from everything. No, you're not. But in the form of sirens, their songs are not thought to affect women.
The government don't got my back. I know the fae will.
Right? Put that on a shirt. And again, like, for the sirens, like, sailors were historically, in the stories, kidnapping them. So, like, why wouldn't you want to target these men?
Yeah.
Like, so it wasn't the women, because were women allowed on ships? No.
No.
It's still considered bad luck to bring a woman on a ship. But you know what? If they had a woman on their ship, maybe she could have stopped them from crashing, because she wouldn't have been lured by the siren song, or she could have stopped your ass from jumping overboard. Like, maybe it's bad luck not to have a woman on the ship, you know? Makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's like all of your problems could have been solved if you had at least one woman.
Doesn't that sound like most things with men? So yeah, if you go to sea, take a woman with you, have wax ready to go, pay pipers if you owe them money, and they won't steal your children. And then, as Piper said on her TikTok, the best way to protect yourself is to never listen to music again and never go anywhere. Not a siren. So, yeah. If you're a man, just be careful out there, I guess. I don't know. I don't really care.
You know what? I hope you run into a siren.
Take a trip to sea.
Follow that ice cream truck in the woods.
Yes.
See what happens.
So now we're going to talk about the nokken.
Okay.
Which was a new one for me. But again, it's kind of very similar to most mermaid lore. But these are also known as the Nixie. Nixie with spelled differently than the first Nixie. Nakken, Nikor, and Nok. It's really regional based, depending on how it's pronounced or how it's spelled. But these are usually humanoid because they are shapeshifters. So these are shape-shifting water spirits in Germanic folklore.
I was gonna guess Germany.
Yes. So yeah,
because I hadn't heard of this, but based off what the names you were given, I was like, I bet this is around the Germany area.
Yeah, so it's German and like Scandinavian regions, and that's where, depending on where you're at, the name is going to change slightly, and also the appearance is going to change. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about here. For example, the German Nix is typically always male, and then the German Nixie are the female water spirits. And then it just varies based on where you're at in the area. But typically, just all nokken are described as one of the three things, depending on which region you're in. So you're either going to get a maiden, like a traditional mermaid, beautiful woman. You're going to get a man with a violin, or you're going to get a horse, very much like a kelpie.
Okay.
So then what's the temperament of the nokken? It depends on the form. It's very specific to the form. So horse form, do you know anything about kelpie?
Somewhat.
Okay. Danger horse.
Yeah.
Always bad. Much like Kelpie, do not pet the water horse. The nokken form, just as bad. It will drag you down and drown you instantly. Like, that's all it cares about. Just, you can't pet water horses, people. Most people are like, oh, there's a horse. No.
It probably still wouldn't stop me from trying.
It will always drag you underwater to kill you. Kelpies are one of the most dangerous fae because I don't think there's ever any stories or lore of them not killing.
Yeah, no.
So this falls into that as well. They're not the same. They are a little different, but essentially it's a Kelpie is what the horse form is. You hear that, horse girls? You can't pet the water horse. I'll say it again.
Now, how does this translate into water polo?
It's probably there somewhere. I honestly don't know. Good question. So the violin playing man falls very much in line with the siren lore. So he has the ability to draw you in with the music. Mm-hmm. And then the maiden, more along traditional, just mer in general, especially with the shape-shifting ability, because they can all shape-shift, but I think it's her specifically that will go on land. And, like, all the nokken, they can live among humans. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the whole thing about them. So yeah, that's the basically theory. But the main thing is the horse will always kill you. The woman or the man, they could kill you, or you could be down to have some fun with them. It really just depends on the situation and if they're feeling frisky, I guess.
Maybe just don't be a dick to mer people.
Exactly. And the big thing, though, is since they can walk among humans, if they are interested in you and seek you out, that's cool. You're good to go. But if you come into their home, you come into their area, they're most likely going to kill you because, consent. It's a big part of the nokken and mermaid in general. So don't try to kidnap them or you'll probably be murdered. But yeah, the nokken are more of the ones, I think, that get traditionally lumped in with falling in love with humans because they can shapeshift. So they don't have the half thing going on. They can be a full man or a full woman or anything they want, really. They can be a horse, a snake, they can whatever. But they're still beautiful in every form is the main thing, and you're probably going to fall in love with them. So just be careful about it. And then with these, typically the masculine form, so the Nyx, they have the power over the women and children. And then the feminine Nixie, they are the ones who are going to, like, entrance the grown men. Mm-hmm. And that's where the difference there is. Things that can give them away in human form, they're music lovers, obviously. They're supposed to be excellent dancers, and they have the gift of prophecy. So if you see any psychics who are dancing up a storm and really into music, could be a nokken. So
beware.
If they shapeshift into animal form, they replace their musical charms with dazzling physical animalistic beauty. Like, they're just supposed to be, like, the most beautiful creature in animal form ever.
So, Kovu from The Lion
King. Yes, exactly.
They're the reason we have furries.
I mean, could be. It's not a wild guess. According to some sources, they can marry humans and bear human children and, like, fall in love. Like, they can love humans. And they also said, though, that while they can bear human children, that in some cases they have been known to abduct human children as well.
Huh.
So, again, they're kind of like wild cards. Truly, the nokken especially, you don't know what you're going to get with them because literally they could look like anything. And I think some say that they can disguise shapeshift into buried treasure and, like, sneak up on you that way. You pull them out and then they get you. Like, they're wild cards, truly.
Proceed with caution.
If you do anything ever, be scared. That's what I'm trying to instill here. The world is a scary place.
Don't be a dick, proceed with caution.
Yeah.
Those are the morals of our stories.
I mean, it's not that hard, you would think.
You would think.
You would think. But here we are, 2022. Some legends claim that if you drop a piece of silver or iron into a nokken's home, it can silence it while you safely cross the water. So some people, they swim with, like, iron or silver on because it's supposed to, like, ward them off, and they can't speak, they can't sing and lure you in. Others say that shouting the creature's name will kill them. Like, they'll perish if they hear their name. which that is also another thing very big in just most fae things. So a lot of fae stories, names hold power.
And like demonology.
Yes,
is a
and
big
like
thing, too.
so it's really hard to like learn a fairy's name. Like so nokkens are not going to want you to know their name, because if you learn it and you shout it, they will die. Just like instantly dead.
Yeah, but imagine if like you and your knocking partner are living happily ever after,
and you get mad at
and they're
them.
down in the kitchen, and like they're like in the kitchen, you're in the other room, so you shout for them because you need something, and then just all of a sudden dead, and you're like,
well, about that. A lot of relationships with nokken end in tragedy because they either leave because they have to, which I'll get into in a second, or just because they die. And it very well could be from that reason, which would be horrible if you were really in love with this.
I mean, imagine
water spirit.
last week after we got done recording, if Richard was a nokken.
I guess now I know he's not that, or that's not his real name. Like, again, maybe they don't tell. That's why they keep their real name a secret. So yeah, it could be a dangerous little game you play.
You called his name like 5 times in like the span of 30 minutes.
I do that. So either we're safe here, he's not a nokken, or he's lying to me.
Or he's lying and Richard is not his name.
Ugh, Richard.
Ugh, Richard.
So some of them say, or most of the legends of the nokken say that they can't bear separation from water for any really long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't return to water regularly, their spirits and their powers will greatly weaken, and to the point they will eventually also die. So that's another reason, like relationships, if they give up their water life for you, you know, they're just basically slowly just going to die over time right in front of your eyes. Or they just have to leave you and go back to sea, which also could be sad. But today I'm like, why couldn't they just like come back every now and then?
Yeah.
But I guess, I mean, I don't know how long, like I don't know any of that. So, especially with their lifespans are so much longer than a human's, like they could come back and then you're dead. Like,
yeah.
You know. So it's probably just best not to get involved with the fae people as much as everyone seems to really want to fuck the fae.
It's probably not a great idea. Okay, maybe fucking the fae is fine, but don't fall in love with the fae.
Yeah.
You will either ruin your life or theirs, and it's just not good.
There we go. You can fuck them. Just don't let your feelings get involved. That's what we say here. Fun fact. After, with all of this, like, these rules and legends say, like, how to, like, protect yourself from the nokken. After, Catholicism kind of, like, got really big in Western Europe, many of these folk tales were adapted to show the power of the church. So they claimed that you could ward off the nokken with holy water or by making the sign of the cross. Personally, I wouldn't try that if I were you.
I don't think that that's gonna work.
But the Catholic Church started claiming that that's how you can protect yourself. It's just holy water and make a cross.
Of course they did.
I just thought that was
course
really
they
funny.
did.
They just had to, like, insert themselves into nokken lore. I was like,
Who asked you here?
fuck up.
Who invited you?
It's so funny to me. Many tales mention that the nokken, funnily enough, can essentially be bought off if they're bothering you or you don't want to risk getting involved with them. They like gifts such as specifically black animals, blood. I think it's like 3 drops of a certain kind of blood. I can't remember, maybe your blood, which again, not a great idea if I were you.
I wouldn't want a fae having access to my blood.
It's never a good idea.
I feel like that could lead to some shit that I don't want to be a part of.
I don't think it's a good idea. Just like you should never tell the fae your name. But that's a whole other episode of this if we ever do.
We'll
more.
get into that later. And by later, I mean like maybe in a year.
Maybe. But if you're interested, definitely let me know and I'll keep it in my brain. And then of course, which if you do like any deity work or any other spirit work, alcohol is always a good call, especially in nokken are no different. They like alcohol gifts. And so if any of these gifts, you know, tickle their fancy or if they like you, they'll potentially not kill you if that's what they were planning to do, or they could even bless you with great musical knowledge or talents.
Oh, nice.
So they're also teachers if they want to be. Again, very choosy. You never know what you're going to get. But, like, you know, very mythical, kind of otherworldly, especially if they're really sea-heavy musicians. Just like, maybe look at them and be like, are you a nokken? Or did a nokken train you? Because it seems sus. Florence Welch, I'm looking at you.
I've got a whole
You were some type of fae, girl.
I've got a whole playlist full of people that could be, that could fall into this.
Well, there you go.
Hosier, I'm convinced, is a woodland spirit.
He seems very fae also.
Convinced. You can't tell me otherwise.
But yeah, so that's the nokken in a nutshell. I didn't know too much about them. Like, again, it was just more just general mermaids. So they, I thought, were the most interesting thing that I read about today. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I never thought of full-on shape-shifting mermaids. And then the last thing I'm going to talk a little bit about is and then again, it's either Iara or the Iara.
And this was the Brazilian.
Yes. So, which also can be known as the Lady of the Waters or the Mother of the Water in Brazilian mythology. She is said to be a beautiful mermaid whose myth originated in the Amazon region, located to like the north of the country. Appearance-wise, it varies depending, again, on much mermaid stuff by like region and what's going on at the time. So she's either a blonde with green eyes or blue eyes, or she either has black hair with green brands or completely green hair and brown eyes. While the hair and the eyes are often
That's just a lesbian.
Well, I mean, she does not go for women, but she's missing out, I guess. While the hair and the eyes, like I said, are often disputed and everyone can't really lay down what they think it is, she is never not exquisitely beautiful. Like, that's just, again, all mermaids, but like with her specifically, it's kind of, people fight about her appearance, but no one is ever arguing that she's not gorgeous. So that's the main takeaway. So, like, for example, she's blonde due to when there's big European influence at the time, naturally. And then she has brown hair due to the indigenous origin of her. So it really just depends what version of the tale you're getting and who's telling it to you.
And then green hair because it's like, it's a sea person.
Yeah.
Green.
But her tale goes like this.
Now, I just had something completely off the wall random that like literally has nothing to do with anything at all.
Great, I love it. Let's go.
So, Stardew Valley.
Okay. Not too off-brand, okay.
You know how I create new farms for every NPC I want to romance?
Yes.
Well, for the one where I'm romancing Elliot, my farmer has like seafoam green hair. I was about to say,
are you Iara?
My farmer has like seafoam green hair and brown eyes.
If only you knew to like name your farm Iara Farm or something.
I think I named it after a plant, probably. Typically, I go like plant or flower. Like my farms are.
I usually try to base it like on what I want to grow because I do like different romances for farms too, but I also do based on who I'm romancing, what I'm farming also. Like, so I do kind of that.
Dude, my Leah farm is making bank right now. I've got a shed full of kegs and of preserve jars. And a whole greenhouse full of ancient fruit because I just kept using that seed maker and I just kept going. And I was like, yep, this is...
My Leah farm is always a fucking big-ass winery. And then just lots of flowers. And it's very gay and I love it.
And then I just give Leah wine every time. Instead of selling all of the wine, I sell all of it but one. And I take the other one. I'm like, Leah, I love you. Thank you for marrying me.
God, I just want a wife that
beautiful girl
has a winery and gives me a bottle of wine every day. And I do nothing but make art. Leah lives my dream.
Yes, back to this. I'm so sorry.
Back to the tale of the Lady of the Waters. So this is kind of her origin story. Because she actually does have an origin story. And this is where I didn't write it down, but there is kind of some controversy over her mythology. Some claim that she is an actual goddess in Brazilian lore. And then some say that she's just like a mermaid, basically. I didn't look too much into it, so I don't call her a goddess in this, but I did want to point out that some do consider her a goddess in Brazil. There you go.
Bad bitch alert.
But this is her tale that seemed, everywhere I read, this was the same like storyline, so I feel pretty good about that. So she was said to be a great warrior and a hunter, so much so that her brothers were jealous of her skill, because she was better than them. Again, men. And since they could never seem to get to be any better than her, the logical thing that they decided was
to kill
her. So they were planning to kill her. But she's a smart-ass bad bitch. She overheard, I saw she overheard, and I also saw that she was just so smart she figured it out on her own what they were planning to do. So she decided, I just need to kill them first. So take that either way you want.
Good for you, girl.
But then her father got so nervous about all of this going on that he just decided he needed to try and kill her himself. And he threw her in the river. Different kinds of fish then came and rescued her, taking her to the bottom of the river and giving her special powers. Also saw some notes. It wasn't noted everywhere, but I am going to throw it out just in case it is a big part of the story. It was also said to be a full moon, and this helped the transformation into a mermaid with the powers from the fish.
That checks out.
Yeah.
And full moons are pretty powerful.
And then in that version, like, if you go with the goddess, this is her becoming a goddess, basically. She got transformed by the moon, like, murdered or at least punished by her father, and then fish saved her, took her to the bottom, and then gave her powers. And then that's when she started to protect the waters there in that region. So then she became the protector. Another version of her tale claims that her brothers did manage to kill her, and then they dropped her body into the river. But then the moon goddess, I did not look up the pronunciation of her name, Jacy, but I'm sure that's not how it's pronounced in lore, but it looks like Jacy, felt sorry for her, and then she transformed her into a beautiful mermaid. So I saw both multiple times, and so I think you could go either way, but regardless, there was a murder attempt, at least, and then turning into a mermaid after being thrown in a river. Those, at least the big factors, check out. And then, much like the siren lore, a lot of her lore involves luring men with her song also. That's her another niche thing that she has. But then she would slay or drown them almost always, except every now and then. Because where she differs from the siren is that every now and then she'll find one man to fall in love with, lure him, basically place him under a spell, that then once under this spell, this man would leave their life behind, leave everything about them, and then go and live underwater with her for the rest of his life, serving her and just also being taken care of by her because she wanted a lover. And then where she is one of the ones that is thought to be immortal just because she might be a goddess, so she differs a little bit in the mermaid lore there. Also. So obviously these men that she take in, they're still mortal, so they're still going to die on her. So then once this one dies, she will then go and lure another one. But while she has a lover and like someone living with her in her palace and taking care of her, she kills every single one else.
Okay.
But every now and then, if she needs a replacement, there's a chance you could go live underwater with a goddess. So, I mean, take that chance if you are in the Amazon region, I guess. A lot of this came to be a way to explain what happened to people who, like, wandered into the jungles in the area and never came back or were never found. They think, oh, they might just be living it up in the underwater palace with the Iara. Which is cool, if it is, but
yeah.
It's a risky little dance.
Or they could just be dead in the miles and miles and miles of harsh jungle.
Which one is
Amazon.
more fun to think about, Skylar? Use your imagination. But once again, stories claim, like most of the mermaid things before her, especially sirens, she does only go after men, it seems. So, women, you're safe from her. And then men, if you just are lucky enough at the time that she needs a replacement man and she takes a liking to you, you could go live out your life like a king, but otherwise you will be murdered. And that's all I have to talk about mermaids today.
You will die.
Because she's a bad bitch, and she'll protect her waters. And I think typically a lot of hers I saw is a lot of, like, fishermen or, like, poaching the waters and, like, people being shitty to the water because she is the protector of the water. And yeah, a lot of times...
Which really sucks if you're just a fisherman who's never done anything wrong and are just trying to, like, get fish for your village and your family.
But maybe she'd fall in love with you. Like, yin and yang, give and take here in the Fae world, okay? that's my mermaid talk.
Woo!
For today.
That was interesting.
Nice, I hope so. It was fun to read about, actually. And like I said, it wasn't originally where I wanted to go with this. And I didn't even get to talk. Like, I had a list of about 6 different kind of famous ones that are more, like, a little more malicious than we know about. But I had so much on those, and I was like, this is already more than I thought it would be for each one, because I kept just getting into them. So, hopefully it was interesting. Even if you don't believe in mermaids, I always think any lore or mythology is cool to learn. Because
it's always interesting no matter what. Like, it's neat.
Yeah. Like, I mean, just stories are always fun. Especially like this. It was a good look at how they vary by region. Which isn't something a lot of people think about with something like mermaids. We think, oh, Little Mermaid. I know what a mermaid is. No, because they usually are murderers. You don't know what a mermaid is.
Yeah, usually they are not good.
Usually they're beautiful, but they'll probably kill you.
I feel like that's how, like, most things in lore are. It's like, what we think we know of them, it's like, but then you get really into it, it's like, oh no.
This has actually had some really tragic backstory.
Like, this is actually, they're dangerous.
It's actually traumatizing.
You could die.
Yeah.
So, my topic is going to be completely different.
Love it.
So, I actually got the idea to do this topic because I watched the newest Spider-Man movie.
Oh.
So can you guess what I'm going to be talking about?
I've never seen the newest Spider-Man movie.
Okay. Well, don't worry.
I could make a guess, but I don't know if I'd be right.
Don't worry. No spoilers for the movie. Okay. But I will be talking about the multiverse.
Oh, okay.
But as it stands in its place in theoretical physics, basically.
That is very interesting, actually.
Yes. So I was really worried that this was going to be boring as hell.
I think the multiverse is a fascinating concept.
Because I hate science, but I love theoretical science.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all about it. I think it's so cool. So I'm going to be talking about the multiverse. So
I'm into it.
The multiverse is a hypothetical group of multiple universes. These universes comprise everything that exists, so the entirety of space, time, matter, energy, information, and the physical laws that describe those things. So the different universes within the multiverse are most commonly called parallel universes or alternate universes, but there are other names for them. But those are the most common. So early recorded examples of the idea of infinite worlds existed as far back within the philosophy of ancient Greek atomism. And atomism is, the thing we all know, that the physical world is composed of invisible components called atoms. That's just what atomism is. Which proposed that infinite parallel worlds were created from the collision of atoms.
I don't know if I've ever heard it called that.
Yeah. That's why I kind of made that note, because, like, I didn't know it was called atomism.
Yeah.
But, like, when
it makes sense.
Yeah, when I looked at what atomism is, it was like, yeah, our world is composed of atoms. I was like, oh, okay.
You right.
I was like, yeah, that's correct. I was like, great job.
Yes.
So, in 3rd century BCE, the philosopher Chrysippus of Soli suggested that the world eternally expired and regenerated, suggesting the existence of multiple universes across time. So, like, every time a universe would expire and regenerate, it would create, like, other universes, like... Mm-hmm. And in 1952, Erwin Schrödinger gave a lecture in which he warned his audience that what he was about to say might seem lunatic. He was like, listen.
I love that's how that started.
He's like, buckle up, guys. This might sound crazy, but...
Love that.
I need you to stay with me.
I feel like that's me at the beginning of every podcast episode. We need you to stay with us.
Like, this is going to sound crazy, but just stick with it. It'll be okay. We'll get there. So he said that when his equations seemed to describe several different histories, these were not alternative, or, quote, not alternatives, but all really happen simultaneously, unquote. So, and this sort of duality is called superposition. So basically when it's like the answer isn't an alternate answer, but both answers are correct. But both answers happen at the same time and they're both correct. Mm-hmm. So quantum superposition is a fundamental principle of quantum mechanics. It states that much like waves in classical physics, any two or more quantum states can be added together or superposed, and the result will be another valid quantum state.
Okay.
And conversely, that every quantum state can be represented as the sum of two or more other distinct states, or quantum states. And then mathematically, to go back to Schrodinger and how he's involved in this, it refers to a property of solutions to the Schrodinger equation. Since the Schrodinger equation is linear, any linear combination of solutions will also be a solution to the equation. So, multiple universes have been hypothesized in cosmology, physics, astronomy, religion, philosophy, transpersonal psychology, music, and all kinds of literature, particularly science fiction, comic books, and fantasy. Going back to Spider-Man, the most recent one, it had to do with the multiverse. It's happened in The Flash before. It's happened in Supergirl. It's all over the place. Multiverse is all over the place. And it's always cool. I think the multiverse is fun. So the physics community has debated the various multiverse theories over time. Physicists are divided about whether any other universes exist outside of our own. So some physicists say that the multiverse is not a legitimate topic of scientific inquiry. Concerns have been raised about whether attempts to exempt the multiverse from experimental verification could erode public confidence in science and ultimately damage the study of fundamental physics. Because a lot of people are saying, the multiverse is definitely real, and even though the scientific... Oh my god. The 6 steps of science, hypothesis, and then it has to be repeated. Scientific method. Oh my god. I'm sitting there, it just completely blanked my mind. But a lot of people are well, even though we can't apply the scientific method to the multiverse, it still can be counted as a real scientific theory. And other people are no, the reason we have the scientific method is that every scientific theory needs to be able to be proven and, tested through the scientific method. Yeah. And if it can't, we go back to it being theoretical physics rather than, legitimate physics. So the multiverse is theoretical. It can't be proven to be real. Right. So some have argued that the multiverse is a philosophical notion rather than a scientific hypothesis because it cannot be empirically falsified. So the ability to disprove a theory by means of scientific experiment is a critical criterion of the accepted scientific method, because one of the things that at the end of the scientific method is the study must be able to be replicated and prove the same results. Yeah. That's one of the main things. So Paul Steinhardt has famously argued that no experiment can rule out a theory if the theory provides for all possible outcomes. So, of course, if we take the multiverse and we've got all these theories about the multiverse, if the theories we have provide explanations for all the possible outcome, because if in the multiverse it's this can happen, it's it doesn't really work. Yeah. You can't just explain a theory. It could. You can't just explain a theory with its own... Yeah. With the theory itself. Yeah. Yeah, it just... No. In 2007, Steven Weinberg suggested that if the multiverse existed, quote, the hope of finding a rational explanation for the precise values of quark masses and other constants of the standard modal comes up later. Of the standard model that we observe in our Big Bang is doomed, for their values would be an accident of the particular part of the multiverse in which we live. Unquote. So basically saying if we take the Big Bang and we've got all these explanations for how the Big Bang could be real. If we are doing that same thing with the multiverse, then it basically explains away the Big Bang, which is how a lot of people think our world came to be, because it's just just in our multiverse, this happened to happen in our universe. But then there's another universe where it doesn't happen. It's so it just all gets really complicated and really
convoluted.
Yes. Yeah. And it starts to contradict itself to where it's
yeah. That makes sense.
So, in his 2003 New York Times opinion piece, A Brief History of the Multiverse, author and cosmologist Paul Davies offered a variety of arguments that the multiverse theories are non-scientific. So, quote, for a start, how is the existence of the other universes to be tested? To be sure, all cosmologists accept that there are some regions of the universe that lie beyond the reach of our telescopes, but somewhere on the slippery slope between that and the idea that there is an infinite number of universes, credibility reaches a limit. So yeah, we can look at space and be there's stuff out here that exists beyond what we can see, But then if you start going down into there are other universes that exist outside, it's a very slippery slope.
Yeah.
And as one slips down that slope, more and more must be accepted on faith, and less is open to scientific verification. Extreme multiverse explanations are therefore reminiscent of theological discussions. Indeed, invoking an infinity of unseen universes to explain the unusual features of the one we do see is just as ad hoc,
I'm not sure.
as invoking an unseen creator. The multiverse theory may be dressed up in scientific language, but in essence, it does require the same leap of faith. End quote. Which, yeah.
I mean, that's fair, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like, yeah, if we're like looking at space and we're like, there's more out there. And then we're like, oh, but what's more out there is these other universes that have, parallels to our universe and have different laws. Then you're kind of creating this big jump that you have to have faith to believe in that. And it's kind of like the same thing as believing, we can't see heaven in space, but people believe that there's a heaven that exists beyond our universe that we can see. And it's that same principle, which checks
just
out.
Believing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then George Ellis provided a criticism of the multiverse, and he explains that some do not believe the lack of empirical testability and falsifiability is a major concern. But he is opposed to that. So, like, there are a lot of physicists who are like, oh, yeah, just because it can't be tested or falsified, it's still fine. And he's like,
well, actually.
Hold on a second. So, quote, many physicists who talk about the multiverse, especially advocates of the string landscape, do not care much about parallel universes per se. For them, objections to the multiverse as a concept are unimportant. So these physicists who are believing in the multiverse, like, they really don't care about people objecting to it. Their theories live or die based on internal consistency and one hopes eventual laboratory testing. End quote. So all these other physicists who are, like, not super worried about it not being able to be tested or falsified, they're just, like, going at it. And, like, when people criticize and be like, well, you can't actually test that. Like, they're just still holding on to it and, like, keeping the multiverse theory consistent, that, like, as science continues to progress, that if the multiverse theory can stay consistent through what science continues to present to us, and then hopefully one day we can test the ability of the multiverse, or test the existence of multiverses in the future. But he's kind of like, just because we can't do that now, so we can't sit here and be like, no, the multiverse is real, when we don't have the ability to test that. Just because you hope that one day in the future we can test it and see if it's real doesn't mean we can say that it's real now, is kind of where George Ellis is going with that. Also, this is a sidebar, because in my last quote, what I said was, many physicists talk about the multiverse, especially the advocates of the string landscape, don't care about. They just are more about internal consistency and one day hoping to do lab testing. So, sidebar, string landscape, because I don't know if a lot of people have heard of string landscape, is the collection of possible false vacua. And what false vacua is a hypothetical vacuum that is stable, but not in the most stable state possible. So it is stable, but not as stable as it could be. In string theory, so the string landscape is the collection of the possible false vacua in string theory, together comprising a collective landscape of choices of parameters governing compactifications. And what compactifications are is the change in a theory with respect to one of its space-time dimensions. So it goes back into the multiverse, space-time dimensions. It has multiple space-time dimensions. Yeah, so that's what string landscape is. So back to Ellis, he's saying that scientists have proposed the idea of the multiverse as a way of explaining the nature of existence. He points out that it ultimately leaves those questions unresolved because it is a metaphysical issue that cannot be resolved by empirical science. So when people take the multiverse to explain our universe as it is now, and it doesn't answer any questions, because the multiverse is metaphysical, whereas our world, as we know it, is physical. Yeah. And it's made up of atoms, it's made up of matter. It's very physical. We can see it, we can observe it. These other multiverses that we're using to explain our world do not answer those questions, because these things we cannot observe. because he says that observational testing is at the core of science and should not be abandoned, which it is. Science is the scientific method. You have to have a hypothesis, you have to have a control group and an experimental group. You have to be able to observe the way that the thing you're testing affects the control versus the experimental group, and then it has to be able to be replicated and understood, and has to be replicated multiple times to prove that whatever your hypothesis that you are theorizing about can be observed and reproven by other scientists without a bias. Yeah. Which is the scientific method. Right. Yeah. What we base our science off of. And if we throw that out the window,
chaos.
That's how we got religion.
Well, you're not wrong.
And look what that's done to us.
Too much.
So another quote from George Ellis. As skeptical as I am, I think that the contemplation of the multiverse is an excellent opportunity to reflect on the nature of science and on the ultimate nature of existence, why we are here. In looking at this concept, we need an open mind, though not too open. So in looking at the multiverse, keep your mind open, but don't just be like, it's real immediately. It is a delicate path to tread. Parallel universes may or may not exist. The case is unproved. We are going to have to live with that uncertainty. Nothing is wrong with scientifically based philosophical speculation, which is what multiverse proposals are, but we should name it for what it is. So he's like, yeah, the multiverse is really cool. It's a great way to think about things. But at the end of the day, it is still a philosophical, metaphysical theory that just has base in science, but it's not a scientific proven theory that can explain our world.
Yeah. I could see someone just actually going insane trying to come up with all of the possibilities and just literally lose their mind over all of the what ifs. It's maybe take it with a grain of salt, guys.
And that's why he's like, we just have to live with that uncertainty. He's trying to save these other physicists. He's like, guys, chill out. Please. It's okay. Yes, it's cool. I agree with you. It's very cool. But relax. Yeah. So then we have philosopher Philip Goff, and he argues that the inference of a multiverse to explain the apparent fine-tuning of the universe is an example of inverse gambler's fallacy. So what inverse gambler's fallacy is the fallacy of concluding on the basis of an unlikely outcome of a random process that the process is likely to have occurred many times before. For example, so let's say you see someone roll a dice and they roll a double six. That's an unlikely outcome. And if it's a fair dice, yeah, a double six is unlikely. But it is wrong to assume that because someone rolled a double six, that meant that they rolled the dice many times before. So the reason the multiverse is an example of inverse gambler's fallacy is because you have all these multiple universes, and or if we have all these multiple universes, our universe as it stands, it had to have all this fine-tuning to be able to support life as we know it with the physical principles and laws that we have as they stand currently. Mm-hmm. And because of that, people have concluded that universes had to have been created many times before to get to the universe we are in now, to have this good unlikely outcome of our universe as it stands now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I didn't know that's what people actually believed, or that people believed that.
Yeah. Yeah, some people are like, well, our universe existing as it is, it's very unlikely that we would have a universe that supports life the way it is now and supports physics and matter and our laws of physics the way it is now. It's very unlikely that that's created, which means that there had to have been multiple universes created before to get to this one. And it's like inverse gambler's fallacy, because just because someone rolls the high six, which is unlikely, doesn't mean that they rolled it many times before.
Yeah, it's just gambling.
It could have just happened. That's why it's called the inverse gambler's fallacy.
Also, if you've ever gambled, that's why it's a gamble.
So, and now we're going to get into classification of the multiverse.
Ooh.
Yes, so Max Tegmark and Brian Greene have devised classification schemes for the various theoretical types of multiverses and universes they might be comprised of. So, Max Tegmark's 4 levels. This one is going to be a lot to take in. But it'll be fine. We're going to get through it. Cosmologist Max Tegmark has provided a taxonomy of the universes beyond the familiar observable universe. The 4 levels of Tegmark's classification are arranged so that the following levels can be understood to encompass and expand upon the levels that were before him. That's why it's the 4 levels, so that each level down can expand upon the one above it. Mm-hmm. So level 1, an extension of our universe. A prediction of cosmic inflation is the existence of an infinite ergodic universe, which, being infinite, must contain Hubble volumes. And what a Hubble volume is a spherical region of the observable universe surrounding an observer beyond which objects recede from that observer at a rate greater than the speed of light due to the expansion of the universe. So, say you are observing the world. Mm-hmm. You are in a bubble. You are observing the objects in this bubble. As the universe expands, those objects go out of your bubble at a speed greater than light, I believe. Yes, at a greater speed than the speed of light due to the expansion of the universe. The Hubble volume is approximately equal to 10 by 31 or 10 to the 31 cubic light years, realizing all initial conditions. So accordingly, an infinite universe will contain an infinite number of Hubble volumes, all having the same physical laws and physical constants that our Hubble volume would have, or our Hubble volume would have. In regard to configuration, such as the distribution of matter, almost all that are outside of our Hubble volume will differ from our Hubble volume. So any other Hubble volumes outside of our own will be different than this one. However, because there are infinitely many Hubble volumes in this infinite universe, far beyond what we can see cosmologically. Is that a word, cosmologically?
I mean, I know what you meant.
If it's not, it is now. So,
I like it either way.
That eventually, in this infinite space, there will be a Hubble volume with similar and even identical configurations as our observable Hubble volume now. So, how that explains the multiverse? We've got our universe, and we've got all these Hubble volumes expanding and going on in space to our infinite universe. And if there's infinite universe, then there's infinite Hubble volume. So eventually there will have to be a Hubble volume that mimics our own, which would create the same observations that we can observe in this Hubble volume will be able to be observed in a different Hubble volume. Hence the idea that there is another universe that mimics our own.
Right.
Somewhere out there. And Tegmark estimates that an identical volume to ours should be about 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 115 meters away from us.
It's a short hike.
Yep. Get there in 5 minutes.
I could run that far.
So, given infinite space, there would in fact be an infinite number of Hubble volumes identical to our own in the universe. Because, like I said, if there's infinite, there will eventually be one out there that mimics our own. But since there is an infinite space, there's also an infinite number of Hubble volumes that will mimic our own. They will just be 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 115 meters away. Hence multiverse.
All right.
Ta-da! Level 2.
I'm following.
So level 2 is universes with different physical constants. In the internal inflation theory, which is a variant of the cosmic inflation theory, the multiverse or space as a whole is stretching and will continue doing so forever. But some regions of space stop stretching and form distinct bubbles. Such bubbles are embryonic level 1 multiverses. So back to the level 1. Mm-hmm. Different bubbles may experience different spontaneous symmetry breaking, which results in different properties such as different physical constants. Level 2 also includes, so I think what it's saying is like, let's say in the next Hubble volume or in the next bubble, gravity just doesn't exist in that bubble.
Yeah.
So in each bubble, there could be a physical law that we observe here that will not be able to be observed there, that it's different there. So level 2 also includes John Archibald Wheeler's oscillatory universe theory. Oscillatory universe theory is any of several cosmological models in which the universe follows infinite or indefinite self-sustaining cycles. And Lee Smolin's Fusend universes theory, and that theory addresses the problem of complexity in our universe, which is largely unexplained. The hypothesis of the Fusend universe theory suggests that a process analogous to biological natural selection applies at the grandest of scales. So that is also involved in level 2. Okay. Level 3, many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. Hugh Everett III's Many Worlds Interpretation, or MWI, is one of several mainstream interpretations of quantum mechanics, which is essentially like one aspect of quantum mechanics is that certain observations cannot be predicted absolutely. Instead, there's a range of possible observations, each with a different probability. So, according to the Many Worlds interpretation, each of these possible observations corresponds to a different universe. So, a 6-sided die is thrown, and that the result of the throw, and that result corresponds to one observation. So, you roll a dice. You roll a 2, that's observable, that's one observation. All 6 possible ways that the die can fall is observed in another universe, according to the Many Worlds interpretation, or the MWI. So basically, like, if you roll a dice and you get a 2, in 5 other universes, you're getting a 1, a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6.
I was just going to say, there's literally an episode of Community about that.
Oh.
They all roll the die, and then depending on what number it lands on, they're in a different timeline, and, like, one of them's the bad timeline, and they get stuck there for a little bit. But, like, it's every time, it's one of my favorite episodes, but it's literally, they're just sitting on a table, and they roll a die, and then whatever it lands on, something different happens. Because they're in a different universe.
And I think that's probably the most, like, when people think of multiverse, like, a lot of people are like just in everyday life, like, you have a decision in front of you. And when you make that choice, your life goes one way. And then a lot of people are like, well, you know, what if there's a timeline where I made the other choice and now my life is going another way? That's that Many Worlds interpretation coming in to that, which I feel like is a very cool, like, because that's probably how I first heard about, like, parallel universes, was when people were talking about, like, making a decision, and if you make a decision, your life goes one way, but then what if you made that other decision, and there's another you out there who made that other decision, and now their life is going in a different way, and that kind of goes within the Many Worlds interpretation of the multiverse.
Yeah, and that's all, that could also, I mean, most media stuff, I think, falls into this one, kind of like you said, because that's also the movie The Butterfly Effect.
Yeah.
That's that.
And that game we played.
Yeah,
like
Until Dawn, like, that whole franchise is, you make decisions, and it
changes.
Like, most video games, actually. Really.
Yeah.
Truly. But, like,
Dream Daddy is a Many Worlds interpretation parallel universe game.
Visual novels. But yeah, if you're like, I don't understand, I feel like you probably should go watch that episode of Community, because they actually do it really flawlessly with the die and everything. And it's also a very funny show. You should just be watching Community. Thank you.
Community is a good show. Fucking love Donald Glover. He is my everything.
He has one of my favorite parts in that episode. His character. I love it. Troy.
I love Donald Glover so much. Anyways.
I keep putting us off track. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's making this more interesting, probably.
I think it's interesting.
So, Tegmark argues that a level 3 multiverse does not contain more possibilities in the Hubble volume than a level 1 or level 2 multiverse. In effect, all of the different worlds created by splits in this level 3 multiverse with the same physical constants can be found in some Hubble volume in one of the level 1 multiverses. Tegmark writes that, quote, the only difference between level 1 and level 3 is where your doppelgangers reside.
Oh, interesting.
So in level 1, they live elsewhere in good old 3-dimensional space, where in level 3, they live on another quantum branch in infinite dimensional Hilbert space. I feel like Hilbert space is one of the things I did not expand on, because it was very computery. It had to do with a lot of, like, computers. So a lot of this that I've expanded on is very scientific, very theoretical physics. The stuff that I do not expand on is very computer science, which does not make sense in my brain. Computer science does not compute. I don't get it. And I know Hilbert Space has like heavy ties into computer science, and I'm like, it's a phrase. Hilbert Space is something.
Just know she said it, and you can Google it.
And it has to do with that. So similarly, fuck that word.
Yeah, it's a hard word to say.
All level 2 bubble universes with different physical constants can, in effect, be found as worlds created by splits at the moment of spontaneous symmetry breaking in a level 3 multiverse. So, according to Yasunori Nomura, Raphael Busso, and Leonard Susskind, this is because global space-time appearing in the eternally inflating multiverse is a redundant concept.
Okay.
So these 3 people have like seen his level 1, level 2, and level 3, and they were like, yo, that's redundant as hell. You're saying the same shit over and over. Yeah. This implies that the multiverses of levels 1, 2, and 3 are in fact the same thing. And this hypothesis that these 3 have created is referred to as, quote, multiverse equals quantum mini-worlds, unquote. So according to Yasunori Nomura, this quantum multiverse is static and time is a simple illusion.
I mean...
Yes.
Time isn't real.
Time isn't real. It's fake.
We're all living in a simulation anyway.
And then we get to the last level, level 4. The ultimate ensemble.
The Avengers. This bitch. Another multiverse.
The Avengers multiverse. So the ultimate mathematical universe hypothesis is Tegmark's own hypothesis. This level considers all universes to be equally real, which can be described by different mathematical structures. Quote, abstract mathematics is so general that any theory of everything, which is definable in purely formal terms or independent of vague human terminology, is also a mathematical structure. For instance, a theory of everything involving a set of different types of entities and relations between them is nothing but what mathematicians call a set theoretical model, and one can generally find a formal system that it is a model of. He argues that this implies that any conceivable parallel universe theory can be described as level 4 and subsumes all other ensembles, therefore brings closure to the hierarchy of multiverses, and there cannot be, say, a level 5.
Okay.
Now, this next thing, this is where it goes. Now, this next thing I don't have a lot of extra info on, or extra info and explanations on, because it has to do with computers, which is one of my many, many weak points.
Okay.
So, Jürgen Schmidhuber, however, says that the set of mathematical structures is not even well defined and that admits only universe representations describable by constructive mathematics. Schmidhuber explicitly includes universe representations describable by non-halting programs whose output bits converge after a finite time, although the convergence time itself may not be predictable by a halting program due to the undecidability of the halting problem. He also explicitly discusses the more restricted ensemble of quickly computable universes. And this is where this whole thing, this like non-halting program and the halting problem and the halting program, I looked into that and I was like, this is a lot of computer shit. I was like, I don't know what's happening here. Never mind. But this is what he says.
Okay.
So if you know what a non-halting program is and a halting program is and a halting problem is and you understood that, great.
You're smarter than us. Why are you listening to this?
But I do not. Good for you.
And also, why are you here?
If you want to explain it to me in like, what are those yellow books?
Oh.
Something for idiots?
Something for dummies. Like, it's whatever the topic is, and then for dummies.
Yeah, if you want to give me a for dummies version of what this is, I will gladly take it, but I cannot comprehend computer.
We couldn't even think of for dummies, so, like...
It took me a long time to come up with the term scientific method. Could I give you the 6-step list of what the scientific method included? Yeah, absolutely. But could I tell you that it was called the scientific method? No, for about 30 seconds I was struggling.
It happens.
But yeah, so that was all very computery, but it's fine.
Okay.
Now we're going to fly through this next part because it's all pretty quick.
Okay.
So Brian Greene's 9 types of multiverse. So first, we have the quilted multiverse. The quilted multiverse works only in an infinite universe. With an infinite amount of space, every possible event will occur an infinite number of times.
Yeah, I've heard of this one. Yeah.
Yeah. However, the speed of light prevents us from being aware of these other identical areas. And it kind of goes back to, how the Hubble bubbles, or the Hubble bubbles.
I'm not gonna lie, that's what I heard every time you were saying it. I was like, trying not to laugh.
The Hubble volumes. Like how we're, standing in the Hubble volume observing it, but as space continues to expand, certain things get out of our own Hubble volume, another Hubble volume is created. So that's kind of goes into the quilted universe.
That makes sense.
So the inflationary multiverse is the next type, and it is composed of various pockets in which inflation fields collapse and form new universes. So every time an inflation field just goes whoosh, new universe.
Okay.
And then the brain is the next type of multiverse. So the brain multiverse, and it's spelled Brane, not brain as in like brain.
I was about to say, that's thinking a little higher yourself.
Yeah, Brane.
Gotcha.
So the brain multiverse version postulates that our entire universe exists on a membrane, which floats in a higher dimension or bulk. In this bulk, there are other membranes with their own universes. And
I don't like that one.
Do what?
I don't like this one. It creeps me out.
Just wait.
Oh no.
These universes can interact with one another, and when they collide, the violence and energy produced is more than enough to give rise to another Big Bang. The brains float or drift near each other in the bulk, and every few trillion years, attracted by gravity or some other force that we do not understand, collide and bang into each other. They fuck and then create a new universe.
That checks out the logic.
That's how it works, actually.
This is the sex ed we all needed.
Yeah, sometimes when your brains fuck, they create a new universe. Anywho, this repeated contact gives rise to multiple or cyclic Big Bangs. This particular hypothesis falls under the string theory umbrella as it requires extra spatial dimensions.
Still not a fan of that one. Don't like it.
No, that's not my favorite. It's kind of stressful, actually.
Yeah.
Why is our universe getting on with another universe? And why is it violent?
Keep it in your pants. Keep it in your brain.
Consent is key.
Not even in the galaxies, apparently.
So, the next type is cyclic. The cyclic multiverse has multiple brains that have collided, causing Big Bang. So back to that last one. The universes bounce back and pass through time until they are pulled back together and again collide, destroying the old contents and creating them anew.
That sounds bad too. I don't like this one either. Why? That just sounds like fucking whiplash of a roller coaster.
Right?
God.
And it's like, oh, nope. Collide.
Actually.
Collide. Bounce back, collide again, destroy everything, and then boom, new. It's like,
here we are.
Why? Seems so extra.
Doing the most.
So the next type is landscape. So the landscape multiverse relies on string theory's Calabi-Yau spaces. Y-A-U.
Okay.
Yau? That's how I would say it. Yau.
I mean, yeah.
Quantum fluctuations drop the shapes to a lower energy level, creating a pocket with a set of laws different from that of the surrounding space.
Okay.
Yeah, so if there's like, we got our quantum stuff, it's going on, matter is doing its thing. But then if that quantum fluctuation of like waves, especially, a lot of the multiverse has to do with energy waves, or physics waves. So like, let's say these waves get to a lower energy, creates a pocket, and then within that pocket, the waves are different, the matter's different. So it creates a pocket with a new set of physical laws than what is currently going on around us. And that's the landscape one.
It's kind of like tide pools then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have quantum is the next type. So the quantum multiverse creates a new universe when a diversion in events occurs, as in the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. So it goes back to like the die is rolled, and then you've got 6 different cases, 6 different things that can happen. So 6 different universes are created. And then you have the holographic type. So the holographic multiverse is derived from the theory that the surface area of a space can encode the contents of the volume of the region. Which didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I was like, sure.
Read it again.
The holographic multiverse is derived from the theory that the surface area of a space can encode the contents of the volume of the region.
Okay. So is it like copy pasting?
I guess.
That's kind of scary. I don't know.
But like then I don't know how that would be like multiverse, except because the main thing about the multiverse is that there's always something different from the universe we're currently in. So unless there was like a glitch in the copy paste and like something got deleted in the copy paste on accident, then we've got the holographic.
Yeah. Weird. Yeah, I've never heard of that.
I don't know. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. So
but that's the one thing I can think of, especially with the name holographic, which is usually just supposed to be like a recreation of whatever the hologram is. Yeah, that one's weird. I'm not sure. Yeah. One thing I can think of is copy paste, but then that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. Because unless it's suggesting that the other universes out there are exactly like our own, but then that doesn't make sense because it's just...
But isn't that a thing that some people do believe when it comes to multiverse?
I mean, I guess, but I've always thought the multiverse as like, it's another universe that mimics our own, but there's something different happening in that multiverse, hence why it's not our universe, because there's something different.
Unless the theory is that it's the same, but maybe different choices are made once it's made?
No, because that's the many worlds interpretation.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't know.
Maybe the holographic is the multiverse where Brittany and Skylar are recording this podcast, except I'm sitting where you're sitting and you're sitting where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't really understand the holographic theory, so I'm sorry I can't give you a better explanation on it. Okay, so then we have the simulated. So the simulated multiverse exists on complex computer systems that simulate entire universes. Now this one...
It's The Sims.
I'm not sorry for not explaining, because once again, computers, I ain't no shit. Sorry about it. And then you have the ultimate. So the ultimate multiverse contains every mathematically possible universe under different laws of physics. That one's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're almost done, I promise.
I think it's interesting.
So now we're going to expand on some more multiverse theories. So one of them is M theory. There's a different sort of multiverse within string theory and its higher dimensional extension called M theory. These theories require the presence of 10 or 11 space-time dimensions respectively. The extra 6 or 7 dimensions may either be compactified on a very small scale, or our universe may simply be localized on a dynamical 3+1 dimensional object or a D3 brane. Which, if we go back to the brain types of multiverse, that all connects.
Right.
So this opens up the possibility that there are other brains which could support other universes. So if we are on this D3 brain, and then we've got, Brian Greene's brain type of multiverse, and we've got multiple brains out there, then there is a possibility that there's another universe that can be supported in a different brain. Okay. So our next type is black hole cosmology. And black hole cosmology is a cosmological model in which the observable universe is the interior of a black hole existing as one of possibly many universes inside a larger universe.
That's cool.
Basically saying, like, our universe is in a black hole, and then there are other universes out there that are also in other...
Which I have heard that before.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that one's very interesting.
It is interesting. I think it's cool. And then the next is anthropic principle. So this is the concept of other universes that has been proposed to explain how our own universe appears to be fine-tuned for life as we experience it. So if there were a large number of universes, each with possibly different physical laws or different fundamental physical constants, then some of these universes, even if very few, would have the combination of laws and parameters that are suitable for the development of matter. Astronomical structures, elemental diversity, stars, planets that can exist long enough for life to emerge and evolve. So it kind of ties into not only the like Hubble volumes, where we're in our own Hubble volume, there's another Hubble volume out there. Like it kind of has to do with that, but it can also kind of be tricky because it is a weaker theory because it does kind of go into the inverse gambler's fallacy, which, you know, a fallacy is something that, you know, people believe it to be true, but it's not. Like, that's what a fallacy is. Yeah. You use fallacies in arguments, and it's like, that's not a good argument because it's a fallacy.
Right.
Because it's saying that, you know, if there is that many large number of universes, then surely there's got to be, like, you know, ours was created. There's got to be another one out there after so many are created that, you know, have the exact parameters that need to support life. Yeah. And it kind of goes with the inverse, where if you roll a high 6, it's like, oh, well, it had to be rolled a lot of times to be able to get that good unlikely number. It's like, that, no.
Yeah, doesn't
so,
really make sense.
It's cool, but it is kind of, it's one of the weaker theories.
Gotcha.
But the anthropic principle could then be applied to conclude that we would only exist in one of these few universes that happen to permit the existence of life with a developed consciousness. Even though the probability might be small that any particular universe would have the conditions for life, those conditions do not require this great intelligent design as an explanation for the conditions in the universe that promote our existence in it. It's one of those things, same with rolling the dice and this inverse gambler's fallacy. It's completely random. Yeah. If there are other universes out there and our universe included that support life, it's because it's completely random. There's no greater design. It's not like every 10,000 Hubble volumes gets to be able to support life. It's just like shit happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and last but not least, and this is going to be my last thing, Occam's razor. We all know what Occam's razor is, so critics disagree about how to apply Occam's razor. So they argue that to postulate an almost infinite number of unobservable universes just to explain our own universe is contrary to Occam's razor, which, of course, Occam's razor is the simplest solution, is usually the most preferred, or some people say it like, oh, the simplest solution, however improbable, must be possible. But then that gets into Occam's razor fallacy, where it's like, oh, even though if it's the simple solution, even if it's improbable, it must be possible, because Occam's razor is really more just like the simplest solution is often preferred. Right. Is what Occam's razor is in itself, before we get to the simplest solution, however improbable, if not impossible, must be possible. It's a weird thing. Occam's razor you can get really into Occam's razor if you want. So they're saying that, you know, if we're going on, the simplest solution is the most preferred, that using all these multiple universe theories to describe the creation of our own universe is not the simplest solution. Therefore, it is contradictory to the widely accepted theory of Occam's razor. However, some people do argue that according to the Kolmogorov complexity, that the multiverse is actually less complex than a single idiosyncratic universe. Because, you know, we've got our one universe. How was it created? We've got all these different theories for how it's created. It may actually be simpler to explain that we just happened to get a universe that was able to support life in all these different Hubble volumes. Like, you just go on all these different connections, and it's actually simpler to explain, like, our universe existing that way as a completely random thing that happened in these multiple universes. So,
yeah.
I lied. There's one more.
You're good.
So the next one, and the last one officially, is modal realism. Possible worlds are a way of explaining probability and hypothetical statements. A possible world is a complete way the world is or could have been. Their metaphysical status has been a subject of controversy in philosophy, with modal realists such as David Lewis arguing that they are literally existing alternate realities. So his kind of ties into the many worlds interpretation, because modal realism is like, you get a problem and there's a probability and there's a hypothetical statement and there could be solutions to that. And so our possible world is like, oh, this is the complete way that this solution or statement is understood. But David Lewis is like, no, all these other options are literally existing alternate realities already. So if you get another solution, it's like, oh, there's an alternate reality that has that solution to that statement. Is another, and modal realism is another multiverse theory. And that is the last, and that is it on what I have on the multiverse.
That was interesting.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think multiverse is interesting.
Hopefully I didn't put anyone to sleep, because I know that was a lot of science, a lot of...
I mean, I don't think it was hard to follow, though, because,
okay.
I mean, yeah, I surprisingly, was familiar with a lot of it, so...
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, good job.
Except for the computer stuff. So if you're a computer science guy...
Yeah, that also went over my head. So
yeah,
I was like, sure.
Yeah. Fuck if I know.
I think my favorite multiverse movie that I've ever watched, if you haven't watched it, I would highly recommend everyone go watch Everything Everywhere All at Once. Great movie.
Okay.
It just, oh god, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It made me cry.
Watch the new Spider-Man.
I need to.
Yeah, because I also thought it was cool because it brought in, like, villains from other Spider-Man movies. And it's like, when you first watch, like, the Tobey Maguire or the Andrew Garfield Spider-Mans, you're just assuming that they're all the same Spider-Man. But then they have, like, different villains and they're different people. And I like how in the end, in the Tom Holland, that instead of it just not being addressed at all ever, it was like, oh, they're from different universes. And I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I have heard people really liked it. I just haven't gotten around to watching it yet. I'm really behind on, like, everything Marvel, honestly. No, I think this is a fun episode.
I enjoyed it.
Random, so I hope you guys liked random, because I feel like we delivered on the random part.
Mermaids to theoretical physics. Like, I feel like we did it.
Yeah, we got to mine because I saw a TikTok, and we got to yours because you watched a movie. This is us in a nutshell. Hey.
Because I genuinely had no idea what I was going to do. I was, like, texting her. I was like, do you know what you're going to do? Because I don't know what I'm going to do. She's like, didn't you have ideas for this? I was like, that was, like, a year ago. I've forgotten.
And I'm sorry if during this last little bit there was some noise going on because people are shooting off fireworks, and I'm not sure if it's picking that up or not, so I apologize.
But my poor baby at home is just, he's so scared.
I know.
Because they've been setting him off out in the country, because I live out in the country, so they've been setting him off for the past 2 days, and just poor Bo.
They have here, too.
He is just he is not doing well.
I really just don't care about fireworks.
Yeah, me either. Why are we celebrating America's independence when
this year
women don't even have independence, really?
Right? I mean, I'm not. If you see me drinking on the 4th, it's just because I drink every day.
Yeah.
Not because I love America.
Okay, I am ready when you are.
Alright, let's see what we get.
3, 2, 1. I've never done a countdown before. I don't know why I did it this time. Oh, we haven't got that in a while, have we?
I feel like we've got that one more than most, but I don't think we have in a while now. So I mean, I'm fine with it. Okay. I've got someone in mind.
So I guess that our topic is creative/creators.
Yeah.
But like I said, it has been a while since we've done that, so I'm kind of excited for it. I don't know who I'm going to do, but...
Yeah, again, if you're new here, or you've forgotten, this category really just means we talk about a person or a small group of people out there doing something cool or creative or even a small business, just whoever we want to, like, shout out. Not that they need it, just mainly just because we like them or we like what they're doing. Like, we've done YouTubers, we've done musicians,
video game creators.
So yeah, we've done, like, all over the place. We've done, like, a
webtoon creator, voice actor, yeah.
So it can be anyone just kind of doing something cool and creative that we are a general fan of. Mm-hmm. And what are we drinking?
And we are drinking my choice.
Yes! So Skylar gets to make another decision.
Great.
She loves it.
I've made 3 decisions in the past week, and it's too much. But yeah, so I'm excited. Don't know who I'm gonna pick, or what drink I'm gonna pick even, but we'll see how it goes.
Find out in a week.
Ooh,
shit.
Actually,
I don't know if I like this.
I have a great idea of who I'm gonna talk about. Drink, I still don't know yet, but I've got an idea. I think I'm gonna do it.
Okay. I can't wait to hear what it
Yeah,
is.
I'm going to say it off recording
Yeah.
so I can tell Brittany, but I don't want to spoil it for y'all. So, yeah. Well,
Take us out.
that concludes our episode, so...
I don't think you've ever said that. That concludes this meeting. Thank you for coming to our TED Talk. Please get your gift bag on the way out.
Anyways, if you would like to contact us as an entity between the two of us,
That's one brain.
you can find us at Sip and Spin Pod on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, or you can email us if you have any suggestions or things for the wheel or comments or something that you're like, I don't really like this as much, maybe consider doing this. Like, we do want your feedback, so you can email us at sipandspinpod@gmail.com, or you can DM us. We both have access to the social media, so whichever one of us can get to it, we'll get to it, and we will take your comments into consideration. If you would like to find Brittany, you can find her at Whimsy Dream or Whimsy Dreams, depending on what was available to her at the time. Or if you would like to find me, I'm at Gleam YKS on everything. But once again, all 3 link trees for the show, for Brittany, and for myself will be down in the description below.
Yes. And we thank you for listening.
Yes, we thank you so much for listening. Thank you for sticking with us. Hopefully you're here now if you stuck with the random, because it was very random.
It's random, but I liked it.
I enjoyed it. I thought this was fun. So hopefully you guys also thought it was fun, because I really don't want to get rid of this one on the wheel. I really would like to keep this one, actually. So
Okay.
if your feedback is get rid of random, no.
Our feedback will be, fuck you.
Our feedback will be not that. It will be, hey, thank you so much.
If I'm in charge of it, it'll be, fuck you.
If I'm in charge of the response, it will be, hey, thanks so much for the suggestion, but me, like, we really actually enjoyed this, so we would like to keep it, but thank you. You can tell which one of us is the nice one. Actually, Brittany is really nice if you...
No, I'm not.
Yeah, she is.
I'm not nice, and I won't be nice to you.
She just likes to pretend she's a hard ass.
I am. Thank you very much.
Okay. Do you want to say your cringy ass phrase to get us out of here?
I don't have any clever way to say it this week. I did so good last week.
You did. You did really good last week. It made me want to throw up.
That's all I strive for. But alas, I have nothing. So I will just say, come sip with us next week as we sip on whatever Skylar decides we're sipping on. Did I say sip enough? Sip.
Thank you, and goodbye.
Bye!